Partisan group ATESH says Russia's 560th Motorized Rifle Regiment is forming female assault companies on the Pokrovsk front and that women are also being used as infiltrators, claims that underscore, the group says, the Kremlin's personnel shortages and desperation, according to the group's report on October the 24th. According to messages from ATESH's agents embedded in the 506th Regimental Command has begun recruiting or ordering women into frontline assault units to make up for heavy losses among contract soldiers and mercenaries. The partisan group framed the move as evidence Moscow is ready to send anyone to the slaughter and said women are also being prepared for covert roles behind Ukrainian lines. ATESH alleges that some women assigned to storm formations are instructed, if an assault fails, to don civilian clothes and blend in with local population to carry out reconnaissance and report Ukrainian troop movements back to Russian commanders. The group added that conditions for these fighters are dire. For these women, there is no way back. Their lives depend solely on the mercy of their commanders. ATESH said its inside sources continue to forward details on troop movements, equipment locations, and preparations for additional assaults by the 506th. In a direct appeal, the partisan group urged members of the regiment, particularly the women being sent into combat, not to follow what is called criminal orders, saying their lives are more important than these cynical plans. Earlier reports emerged that the Russian command was continuing to secretly mobilize residents from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine to replenish its units, directly contradicting its own official statements. Vladislav Voloshin, the spokesman for the Southern Defense Forces, confirmed to Ukrinform on October the 20th that the practice is ongoing. He reported that one of the Russian airborne forces landing units recently received approximately 50 new recruits, consisting primarily of residents from the occupied Luhansk region. Despite the assurances of the Russian high military political leadership that residents of the temporarily occupied territories would not be involved in the Russian army, they are currently mobilizing men and sending them to the war against Ukraine, particularly to the southern directions, to Kherson region, Voloshin noted. Meanwhile, Ukrainians forcibly conscripted into the Russian army are intentionally injuring themselves to evade being deployed in assault operations against Ukraine's defense forces in the Kherson region. According to ATESH partisan movement, one specific case involved a soldier, a resident of the temporarily occupied Kherson region who had been forcibly conscripted, deliberately injuring a fellow serviceman who was also mobilized from occupied Ukrainian territory at the end of June. ATESH highlighted that Russian commanders resort to coercion, intimidation, and threats of violence to force residents of occupied regions to carry out combat orders. Despite this strict control, many Ukrainians are finding ways to avoid being sent directly to the front lines.
Gaza City residents are still struggling to find food and shelter after their homes were reduced to rubble following 2 years of war between Israel and Hamas. According to Associated Press, nearly 2 weeks into the ceasefire, Gaza City residents face growing uncertainties over when large-scale reconstruction would begin. Kamal Al-Yaji said his 3-story residential building once housed 13 families, but now nothing remains of it. His family has been forced to live in a makeshift tent, its bedding pieced together from worn-out mattresses with blankets that they had to beg for. "Every day I look at my home and feel sorrow over it, but what can I do?" said Al-Yaji as he sat outside his tent near his destroyed house, lighting up a piece of sponge to make coffee. The family now lives near Sheikh Radwan Pond in northwestern Gaza City, which was once a reservoir collecting rainwater but has become severely contaminated throughout the war. Al-Yaji fears that the water could overflow and flood surrounding tents if levels rise during the rainy season. He adds that his family is struggling with mosquitoes and wild dogs coming to their tent. A U.S. proposed truce aimed at ending 2 years of war took effect on October 10th and is still holding. But many daily struggles, big and small, persist, from how to put an actual roof over one's head and what to wear as winter approaches, to how to secure proper food. Out of every 10 buildings that stood in Gaza before the war, 8 are either damaged or flattened. An estimated cost of rebuilding Gaza is about $53 billion, according to the World Bank, the UN, and the European Union. The war in Gaza was triggered by Hamas' surprise attack on southern Israel on October 7, 2023, which left 1,200 people, mostly civilians, dead and 250 taken hostage. Israel's retaliatory offensive in the Palestinian territory has killed more than 68,000 people, according to Gaza's health ministry.
الاشبار ماشي بلاقي مكان غير هالمكان، وقدام باب دار انا قاعد، وين بدي اروح؟ قدام الردم كل يوم بشوف الدار وبتحصل عليها. وايش بدي اعمل؟ والله ما احنا عارفين ايش نسوي، مناش غير الله. الحمد لله. الفراش كله تك 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 تكنا، كم فرشه جبناه. حرامات فيش حرامات، كله شحته. وزي المطبخ فيش ولا صحن عندنا. ايش بنلاقي حتى اوقات بالشوارع جنب الدور بناخذه. اللي بنمشي حالنا نصر حالنا فيه. كلاب مصروعه بتقول ناكل بني ادمين، تهجم علينا بالخيم هنا بتيجي. هان بتيجي، وبعوضه بالنسبه للبعوضه تسالش. البعوضه زي حبه الدبان، هاي طلع دمها هان، معلم على كل الخيمه الدم. بعوضه غير طبيعيه عندنا هنا. يعني ما بنقدرش نعيش هان فيها خيمه. اليوم الله يرزقنا ان شاء الله. احنا عايشين جنب بركه الشيخ رضوان. اي شتويه هنا بتشتي نغرق على السريع. يعني قبل الحرب كنا برضه نغرق، نعاني منها. يعني لقيت لو شتيت ممكن ما نقدرش نشرد من المنطقه هذه. الصرف الصحي هنا كله مسكر، ردم ورمل مسكر، فيش منه فايده هذه العيشه هذه. حياه صعبه عندنا هنا. أنا اشتغلت ب 100 شيكل، نظفت اوضتين، واعطاني اياهم الزلمه مضروبين المصاري 100 شيكل ممزع. فهي راحت المراه على السوق فيها، والحمد لله رجعت بقولها، بتقول لي ال 100 شيكل مش راح تمشي.